According to the principles of operant conditioning, to improve the behaviour of animals, children, or indeed anyone, you need to reward more desirable behaviours. You could present food to a dog that sits quietly in the corner in response to the word sit, or you could praise children who tidy their room, and so forth. Of course, this recommendation is entirely obvious. Every parent knows they should reward desirable behaviours, and most parents indeed do reward desirable behaviours, and yet discover that their children are still not quite perfect. I mean, if their children were actually a can of fruit, they would probably be sold at half price. So the more interesting question, therefore, is how can we reward desirable behaviour more effectively? That is, what are the features of this approach that enhance the impact of these rewards? First, you should obviously present the reward as soon as possible. As soon as a dog sits in response to the word sit, you could offer some food, or as soon as a child tidies their room, you could offer praise, and any delay will tend to diminish the impact of this reward. But one complication is that you might not always be able to offer this reward immediately. To illustrate, perhaps the food is located in another room and can't be prepared immediately. Consequently, you need to identify awards that can be presented instantly. So to illustrate, with animals, you could precede the rewards they like, such as food, with cues that you can readily repeat, such as the phrase, good dog. That is, you would frequently say, good dog, and then offer some food. And over time, because of classical conditioning, your pet will begin to predict the food will follow the phrase, good dog. And so the phrase, good dog, alone will feel rewarding. And so you can utilise this phrase more swiftly than you can prepare food. Now, in this instance, food is called a primary or unconditioned reinforcer. That is, food is innately reinforcing. The phrase good dog is called a secondary or conditioned reinforcer. That is, this phrase is not innately reinforcing. The dog was conditioned to learn this phrase is rewarding. A similar complication is that you might not have discovered the desirable behaviour until later. You might not realise until hours later that your child has cleaned the room, for example, and therefore you can't reward the child immediately. And to overcome this problem, you should prompt the child, if they're old enough, to imagine the act again. You might say, how did you clean your room? Or in which order did you clean your room? And then after they've imagined this act, you could offer the reward, such as praise. Now, studies show even rewards for behaviours that people imagine can be effective. And indeed, even imagining the reward can be effective. So, for example, if you imagine speaking assertively, and then you imagine receiving a reward, you're actually more likely to speak assertively in the future. And the second principle revolves around the level of association called contingency. In particular, you should present rewards only after the child has initiated the desirable behaviour. Don't present the rewards if the child has not initiated the desirable behaviour. So, for example, try not to say you cleaned so well, unless, of course, the child really has cleaned well. Consequently, you should identify rewards that are helpful but not actually essential. So, for example, food in general should not be a reward because you obviously need to feed your child regardless of whether or not he or she has acted desirably. In modern society, we're not really supposed to starve children merely because they haven't cleaned their room. Now, furthermore, at least initially, you should try to reward every instance of this desirable behaviour. And then over time, you can gradually diminish the rate at which you reward the desirable behaviour. For example, after 1 week, you might praise the child only after every second time the room is cleaned. And after 2 weeks, you might praise the child only after every third time the room is cleaned, and so forth. So they're more likely to sustain this behaviour even after the rewards are withdrawn. Now, the third principle revolves around the magnitude of rewards. Obviously, a larger reward is more reinforcing than a smaller reward. A large ice cream is more rewarding than a small lolly, for example. The complication, though, is that many events or circumstances can affect the perceived magnitude or impact of a reward, called a motivating operation. So to illustrate, if a child feels confident, praise may not be as rewarding as usual. If a child is full, even a lolly might not feel as rewarding, although of course some children can eat lollies even after their stomach is overflowing. And so therefore, to ensure a reward is effective, you could slightly deprive the children of this reward first. For example, a toy is more effective as a reward if the child has not received a toy for a while. Now fourth, if possible, you should actually offer a variety of different rewards. A variety of rewards has been shown to be more effective than one repeated reward, especially in humans, but not only in humans. Rewards could include fun food, tangible objects such as jewellery or toys, exchangeable tokens such as money or some sort of point system, social rewards such as praise, smiles, or even merely attention, and fun activities such as watching a movie. Now presumably, the same reward, if repeated often, just doesn't feel as exciting over time. Indeed, people and animals are not as likely to direct their attention to anything they observe or contemplate often, called habituation. Indeed, if people often contemplate a trauma in their lives, the impact of these memories will tend to subside over time, partly because of this habituation. Furthermore, according to some studies, parents and teachers should set distinct rewards for the different desirable behaviours. So for example, they could praise the child who cleans the room and then offer small toys to a child who completes homework. Right? So for some reason, this arrangement is more effective than offering praise or small toys to both of these desirable behaviours. Finally, parents and teachers and counsellors need to be able to predict in advance which consequences are really going to feel rewarding. That is, they can't be certain whether food, praise, jewellery, toys, watching movies and so forth will indeed feel rewarding for the child. So perhaps the child doesn't really want the jewellery now, or perhaps the child is scared of movies, or whatever. Now, a particular concept called the Premack principle is often applied to solve this problem. In essence, something is perceived as more rewarding if children would naturally gravitate to this object or event more often than they would naturally gravitate to the desired behaviour. So let me provide an illustration to clarify what I mean. So for example, suppose that in the evening at home, the child would naturally play with jewellery more often than they'd clean their room. So in this instance, jewellery would be an effective reward for cleaning the room. In contrast, suppose that at home, the child would choose to watch movies actually less often than they would want to clean their room. So in this instance, the offer to watch movies would not be an effective reward.